This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Hey guys, Keith Engel for TGI Sports Talk right here in the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. How are you guys today? Gosh, what a difference in the air temperature. Yesterday was like a wet dish rag. Today's so refreshing. It feels like football weather. It's going to be warm. It's going to be 69 or 70, but gosh, it's beautiful. What a day. Had a lot of fun yesterday. Went to a ground bake at old friends of ours. Haven't seen in quite some time. Hadn't been to a ground bake of theirs in some time. We had a blast. So I want to thank Ray and Judy Phillips for that party. So thank you for that. We had a blast eating food out of the ground. If you haven't done it, do it. It's a lot of fun. A little other housekeeping. I want to thank, again, before I get started, the groups. So we got here. Would rather play today than a crazy rainy day yesterday. Yeah, it was a nasty day. Jeremy Perry, I see a new name, so welcome to the show. Jeremy, glad to have you here this morning. Good morning, Rick. It's going to be a beautiful day today. Hopefully across the country. Don't know. Wherever you are, I hope it's nice, and wherever your NFL team is playing or your MLB team is playing, I would hope it's a great day. Again, I want to thank the groups that allow me to share the show. They are certainly integral in the success of the show. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of things that you guys can do to help when we get to our NFL pick recap. Carlos, good morning. Good to have you this morning. Dave Gayette, good morning. Happy to have you guys here as always. My special thanks to Coach Skip Hall, my guest on Friday, former coach of Boise State, coach for many, many years before that, is the assistant head coach with Washington under the great Don James. We talked a lot about his Don James influence on him. He coached with Nick Saban. He's got a book coming out called Coach 'Em Up, the Skip Hall story, and the forward is by this aforementioned Nick Saban. So that should be interesting. I've ordered the book myself on Kindle, and I'm excited to read it. And don't forget our college football huddle show on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We'll try to get Larry Sorensen, Wake Forest color analyst, on this week. We'll see about Mark Mancini, who will be on with me later, Mark Mancini from Mancini Media. And also, next Friday, my guest on my Friday interview show will be Ed White, former NFL offensive lineman. No less a great NFL player than Dan Fouts says Ed White should be in the Football Hall of Fame. So we're looking forward to that. It'll be a recorded interview. Ed does live on the West Coast. We'll be recording that interview Tuesday night and playing it plausibly live, if I want to use a sports television cliche. Jeremy's coming from the ECFL group. So I'm forgetting what the acronym means now. The Semi-Pro Football League here in the East. I don't know if he's part of the Connecticut team or which team you're part of, but welcome, Jeremy. I know that Northeast Streaming Sports has been supporting the league, and Mac was actually at a game. Mac McGrath from Mac and Jack, the Mac and Jack show, was on at a game last night. Was presented with a jersey from the Connecticut team. So, Rick, I hope your NFL team can be as consistent as Georgia. Rick Sherlock, one of our regulars, is a big Georgia fan and a big Minnesota fan. So it might be a little tough following the Georgia model. What else we got here? Waiting on Mark to talk about his upset bids and what I can expect by cheesecake. Yeah, well, Mark will be on. We'll call him out on that, Rick. I'm glad you pointed that out. I almost forgot about that. I think that was on the South Carolina-Georgia game. So congratulations on a nice win yesterday. Oh, gosh. What else I want to talk about? So we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today, guys. We'll get into Major League Baseball quickly and go through the races. A couple other notes of interest in Major League Baseball. I want to move on to I'll probably move on to the NFL. Actually, I think we'll do college right after that. And I think we'll do the NFL after that. And we'll also dive into our picks. I'll do my picks. And also I will give you guys the opportunity to continue to make the picks in the pool. I'll review the pool results weekly, so everybody will know where they stand. And guys, remember, if you're in the pool, and guys, it's not too late to get in the pool. So get in the pool. You're going to be a little behind the 8 ball, but if you're really good, you could catch up after a week or two. And if you're not sure, if you want to see the link, it's on TGI Sports Talk. You might have to scroll through the news feed. I'll share it again. I'll share it in here if you guys would like me to. You'll have a chance to win an Amazon card. And I will ask everybody, and I'll repeat this again later. The only thing I ask is that everybody in the pool, and there's 19 of us right now, and most of you are following the show. And I hope you'll share the shows that you like, especially ones you're participating in a lot, like today's show, to my regulars. And also go to the TGI Sports Talk page and invite your friends. If you don't know how to do it, it's not hard. Just go to TGI Sports Talk. I think across the top banners, you're going to, at least the way I see it, and in my format, there's a little spot with 3 dots, and you pull down a bunch of options. One is invite friends. It'll bring up a whole list of your friends, and you can invite them all to TGI Sports Talk. I want to keep growing this. We're going to be at 1,500 soon in just a year's time. I'd like to get to 2,000 in early 2022. Don't invite everybody at once, by the way, because Facebook will stop you. They good morning to Teddy Bubniak. I don't see Teddy a lot. Teddy's up early. You retired guys don't get up that early, I don't think, but or you don't have to. Us working stiffs are up. I was going to mention Rick picked one game last week, Rick, so you're going to have some catching up to do. If we get Billy back, Billy's still traveling, it looks like, from Facebook, Billy Pulver. He's going to have some catching up to do as well. So, but good morning to you, Drew. Good morning to Teddy Bubniak, as I said. Rick says thank you to Carlos. And Dave Gadd says if the Yankees don't make the playoffs, they should make a manager move and general manager move. I agree. Let's jump into that, Dave. The Major League Baseball races, the Yankees are just, look at the end is coming. I don't see any way. We know that the division's gone. The wild card, they keep slipping further behind. Right now they are, let's see. Well, they're still only a half game behind the Blue Jays. But, does anybody feel this team, number one, is going to make the playoffs? And number two, if they make the playoffs, they're going to win a one-game series against anybody, the way things are going? I did a vlog. And I agree, Dave, to be honest with you, I personally don't care unless they do anything short of making the World Series. I want to see a change in the general manager and the manager. Now, it sounded a little bit like Carlos. It's funny. When I want to fire a manager, Carlos doesn't. And they should fire both. So at least we're on the same page there. Cashman made this mess, guys. But Boone, until lately, when he came down on Torres, took him out of the game for not hustling, he has not gotten on these guys. And maybe he does it behind closed doors. I don't care. And I don't say you got to go to the press and rip your players, but you got to hold them accountable. I'm tired of watching him at press conference after press conference, post game, just making excuses for bad base running, bad base situational hitting, all the stuff that we talk about. And I'm just tired of it. That was a great comment yesterday, by the way, just to jump off a little bit. Billy had posted a picture in the Rocky Mountains, I think, somewhere. Oh, no. I think it was the mountains, Rick. And he was off center a little, and Rick told him to take a step to the right, which would have sent him right off the mountain. Very funny. They both might quit and work for the Mets. You know what? It's possible. Listen, Brian Cashman is a capable general manager. Brian Cashman, if he wants a job, wouldn't be out of work 5 minutes if the Yankees fired him or he left. But too much time has passed here without him winning. This is the New York Yankees, okay? This isn't the Kansas City Royals, who, by the way, have been to more World Series than the Yankees since 2003. And won one. The Yankees they've got the same number of wins as the Kansas City Royals and the Florida Marlins. So think about that. Boston's won 4 in a row. Yeah, the Boston's picked it up a bit to get, a game ahead of Toronto. Toronto was and still is playing very well. They're still 7-3 their last 10. I still think they're the team to beat for the wild card, and probably the favorite to win that one game playoff. Yeah, well, it's saying their pitching is just as good as the Yankees. Isn't saying much right now. I mean, it's Cole and nobody else. Cortez pitched well the other night. I was impressed with his outing, but other than that, the Yankees pitching. I mean, both starting and relieving has just been a joke. Friday night's outing with the wild pitches, and I don't just blame the pitchers. Look, the pitchers got to pitch better. You can't throw those wild pitches and allow yourselves to lose that game Friday night. But Gary Sanchez doesn't help either. Gary Sanchez, I got to move on. I'm tired of saying the same thing. You guys are probably tired of me saying the same thing. So hopefully we'll get to the point where we move Sanchez. And as you watch my vlog, I've loved Gleyber Torres, and I said he wasn't a shortstop, but I'm not sure that he can be saved in New York right now. It moved him to second base, and he's still making airheaded plays, passing up double plays. The other night, he passed up an easy double play and got out at first, and it caused a run to score. We give up too many outs, and it's not just their fault. It's a team-wide problem. Sale's important. Dave, I've been on the Buck Showalter bandwagon for a while, and I don't think Buck's coming back. I really don't. I think he likes his gig with Yes Network. But he's the type of guy that I would bring back. He holds guys accountable, and he's learned from his past mistakes. That's the thing. Buck Showalter in Baltimore, where he did a great job until he just had no players left, did a great job, and he was a much different manager than Buck Showalter in Arizona for sure, and even in Texas. So, yeah, and that's my point about Torres, Carlos, is that his confidence is shot, and I don't know that you get it back. I don't know if you watched my vlog from Friday, but I talked about, once your confidence is gone, in New York City is a harder place to get it back than any place else in all of sport, anywhere in sports, or any locations, I think. Maybe there's a couple other I'm not thinking. Maybe it's hard in LA, but I don't think it is. I think New York is a God. I mean, it could be a death sentence for guys' careers if their confidence gets shot. Look at Chuck Knobloch. You can talk about Steve Sachs had the same kind of problem. They stopped being able to throw the ball to first base. Ed Whitson was a very competent pitcher until he came here, overpaid, and couldn't even pitch at home. They got to the point they couldn't even pitch him at home, and he had to get out of town. It's a tough place to play, and once you get beat down, it's hard to come back. And you're right. I don't dislike Torres. Now, he didn't run out of ground ball the other night, and God bless Boone for pulling him out of the game and addressing it. You may be right about Buck, but he should go to Arizona. He's been that way, Carlos. Anyway, I think the Yankees are. I'm a huge Yankee fan. You guys know that. The 13-game winning streak was a mirage. Everything was going right, and now everything's going wrong. And I don't think it was a coincidence that Torres was out for that time. I don't think it's a coincidence that Gary Sanchez missed a bunch of that time. Yankees' only hope now is that their pitching somehow holds up, and Garrett Cole doesn't have any problems with his arm or his hamstring. I think he hurt. Gosh, you might have to pitch him maybe third day. I don't know. You got to try something. Ricky and Willie, Willie Randolph. Well, really, the Mets wanted him gone. Well, this is the whole thing, Drew. Ever since the 13-game win streak, they've gone back to station baseball. I hate it. And again, this isn't just the Yankees. This is indicative of baseball in general. There's very few teams that play smart situational baseball. I'll tell you what, team everybody hates. I've told you this 100 times, the Astros. Everybody hates the Astros. They do some great situational hitting. Yes, they got some long ballers, but they pitch the right way. I don't disagree. We got two saving graces. 2 weeks left. You got to maximize Cole wherever you can. You got to hope that Loizaga, it sounds like Loizaga may come back here this week, possibly. He's been probably their best weapon out of the bullpen all year, the most consistent for sure. I don't trust anybody right now. I don't trust Chapman. I can't trust Green. And this happens to Chad Green, it seems, every year. And another problem I got with Boone, he's probably been overused. Astros and Cardinals. Cardinals is another good example of teams that play good. And the Cardinals have got themselves back in the wild card race in the National League, which we'll talk about here in a second, Carlos. I think a great job by them getting back in this race. And they do play that type of baseball. I agree. There's a few teams that do. And look at everybody's hitting home runs, wants to hit a home runs. Everybody does a shift, hits into the shift. But there's a point in the game where you've got to play situational baseball, whether it's defense or offense. Don't just look in your book, or don't just sit there waiting for home runs, and don't pay attention to this, whatever script the manager or the GM and this is my big problem with, and maybe I can take some of the fault off Boone, but I'll give him some of the fault because he doesn't stand up and say, I want to run my own game. I think Cashman runs too much of the game. I think there's a script. And look at the Rays have been successful doing this, but the Yankees have and other teams aren't in certain. But it cost the Rays in a World Series last year. I think there's a script before they go into the game. In a lot of cases, we don't have a feel for the game. We read a script and say, you know what, Snell's pitched 100 pitches in the fifth inning. It doesn't matter that he's cruising along in a World Series game, the deciding World Series game. Let's take him out. Cardinals and Blue Jays have made some changes to be in the playoff race. Mets try, but they can't run the Mets are another situation like the Yankees. It's a mess. They got a mess in the front office. I think you're going to see the manager get fired there. Don't keep in mind, Rojas was there before Cohen bought the team. He certainly was there before either the GMs that they brought in that are both gone now or will be gone. Were there. So they're going to be hiring a new president because I think Alderson's done. They're going to be hiring a new GM. And I think it's highly unlikely that Rojas is going to survive this. They're going to want their own people. Yeah, the Mets hitting it. I mean, look at, and again, I don't know if it's Rojas's fault. Mets made a mistake firing Chili Davis. I know you're going to say, Carlos, well, the situation has been going on for a while, but I think the Mets firing Chili Davis a couple of weeks into the season was ridiculous. Yankees made changes too, but again, the changes they made, I agree. I like the Anthony Rizzo move. I thought the Joey Gallo move at the time, and I said it here, while the Yankees needed to get left-handed, Joey Gallo's an all or nothing guy. And they liked him because he was an on-base percentage machine as well, but he hasn't been with the Yankees. Last time I looked, it was about 160. Maybe he's brought it up a little since then. And Boone continued to bat him second. Another reason I can blame Boone for their failures here, Carlos, is the fact that for a month he put Gallo in that 2 spot, and he was doing nothing except striking out. I went to a game on Labor Day and watched him strike out 4 times, 3 times looking. So unless I'm right and Cashman's pulling all the strings and setting the lineup too, San Diego's imploding. I was just going to talk about this situation. Let me stick with the AL for a second. Let's wrap that up. So you still got the Yankees in the race, but I don't see any way that they are going to be able to win a 1-game playoff because they're probably going to have Cole pitching that last weekend just to get in the wild card. So they aren't going to have Cole available for that 1-game playoff, depending on how the pitching sets up. Obviously the White Sox have got things well in hand. So do the Astros. As far as the American League wild card, I mean, you can say with 12 games left, the A's are still alive at 2 games back. The Mariners are starting to fade a little. Sorry, Mickey Delaney, but they're fading a little at 4 games back. I don't give them any shot. I still think it's down to those 3 teams. And I still think the Blue Jays have the best shot in a 1-game playoff. Anything else here on, we'll talk about that. I don't know what this one is. The food coming out from the vendors is terrible. In Yankee Stadium, my wife actually ordered. I just had a Nathan's hot dog. I'm old school. I had a few beers, and Nathan's hot dog only cost me about $400. My wife had something from Benny Haha, which she liked. That was probably about $75. Anyway, so Drew's got a comment here about the AL Central. Nothing interesting in the AL Central except for actually, very good point. I'm glad you brought him up. Very quiet. And I'm not wrong when I say quietly, right, Drew? I mean, if you're a fantasy baseball player, maybe it's not quiet. But if you're just a average baseball fan, Salvatore Perez, who's been a very good major league catcher for quite some time now, has snuck up this year in a year that all these guys are complaining about the baseballs, by the way, being dead. Stop. Salvatore Perez, and if I'm not mistaken, Drew, you correct me, I believe he broke Johnny Bench's record for home runs by a catcher. And I would say that's a pretty good accomplishment. Johnny Bench has got a pretty good pedigree. As a Hall of Fame catcher and power hitting catcher at that. Yeah, even with eye and knee issues, yes. I mean, he's not a young guy. He's been around quite a while. He's a good defensive catcher, and he's turned himself into quite a hitter. So he has a great story in that Central. So thanks for pointing that out. He'd be an MVP contender if the Royals were any good, and maybe he still will be. He'll get some votes. So let's move on to the National League. One more comment here. I think Drew had a comment up. The A's are making a push. They are playing better the last 10 games. They're only 2 games back. I just see it being one. Yeah, I don't see them beating out the Toronto or Boston. To be honest with you, they'll slide past. They'd have to slide past the Yankees and one of those other teams. I think it's Boston and Blue Jays. I'm going to vote for my Yankees, but he tied Bench, but he's got 12 games left. It's no disgrace to tie Bench or be a few behind him. Great company, huh? He should be in the MVP talks. He's a great player. The problem is it's hard to get, and it's not that it doesn't happen. I remember Andre Dawson comes to mind. Teams that were very bad having MVPs. It happens, but they like to vote for guys that are on winning teams. A's need to play games in Nashville. The A's are very likely to move somewhere. They want a new stadium. I don't know. Oakland has never really supported the A's in my mind. I mean, I remember back in the 70s. You may have seen packed playoff games, Carlos. Well, if you're old enough, again, I haven't determined how old you are yet. Not that it's important, so don't go to HR on me. Back in the 70s, during the regular season, the A's would draw, 8, 9, 10,000 people to regular season games when they were winning 3 world championships in a row. Not a great stadium experience for anybody there, obviously, but, All right, let's move on to the National League. The Braves still continue to lead the East. Nobody wants to win this division. The Mets are 5.5 games back after losing 5 in a row. I got to believe the Mets are dead. I said it last week. The Phillies have caught fire and won 4 in a row. Only 5-5 in their last 10, though. And the Braves are 4-6. So the Phillies are back in at 1 game behind. Brewers clinched yesterday. And then you got the San Francisco Dodgers and Giants still battling it out for first place there. That's going to go right down to the last week. Of course, there's only 2 weeks to go, so that's not saying a lot. As far as the wild card race goes, you've got obviously the Dodgers or the Giants. So the setup baseball has now, and again, it's unfortunate because they play in the same division and whatnot. You got 2 teams, probably the best 2 teams in baseball, at least if you go by records, and as the fat bastard, excuse my French, Bill Parcells said, you are what your record says you are. That's the record say they're the best two teams in baseball. They're going to play a one-game playoff to determine who goes on in the playoffs. As far as the wild card goes, the Dodgers right now are 16 games ahead of the rest, so it's a race for one spot. The Cardinals now have that spot after being declared dead by everybody, including me. And I'll get to your comments here in a second, guys. The Reds, who had gotten themselves in pretty good position, have played a little bit shaky baseball recently to fall back to 5 games over and 2 games behind the St. Louis. The Phillies are 2.5 games out of the wild card, and I would think their best path to the playoffs is the division crown. And the Padres are the Padres. They're imploding. Fernando Tatis and Machado. Machado barking. It looked bad in the dugout. And I understand Machado for getting on Tatis. I love Tatis's game, but some of his histrionics are uncalled for. And you know what? He puts himself in a bad position, arguing with third strike last night, gets his manager thrown out of the game, and Machado got in his face and told him this isn't all about you. And the Padres have got some serious issues, going 3-7 again in their last 10 games. They're now only 4 games over 500. There's a place you're going to see the manager get fired for sure. Tingler's probably gone. So let's see. We've got some, we'll have some, I know we got some comments here about the National League. Well, I missed your comment about Brett Gardner. I'll go backwards here for a second, Dave. I don't see that. Maybe someday, Dave, but I don't see it happening now. Not right off the field. Okay, let's get to the National League here. Mets passed. Okay, Mets passed on Salvatore Perez. I believe is what Carlos is referring to here. To go backwards a little bit in free agency because of his health issues, and he is in the MVP talk. So let's get back to. I thought that was what I wanted. Braves. Here we go. Braves losing at the wrong time as usual. Look at that whole division. Has been kind of a battle of attrition. Whoever plays the bad teams makes a move. And I think whoever wins that division, I like the Braves. Drew will remember when we did our preseason preview. And I guess we'll have to do a postseason recap at some point, Drew. Maybe we'll wait till after the playoffs. I'm not sure yet. Probably makes sense. I picked the Braves to go to the World Series and beat the Dodgers, who were the big favorite at the time. But they just have had too many injuries and not played well. When they played better than since Acuna went down than before. And O'Reilly's had a great season out there. Finally has broken out like I thought he would a couple years ago. Cardinals are a very streaky story as well. A lot of streaky teams in the National League, especially, right? You've had teams. You've had the Mets on good and bad streaks in the East. You've had the Phillies on good and bad streaks in the East. You've had the Braves never really. They've always they went on one really good streak, but other than that, they've been playing 500 baseball almost all year long. The Dodgers will get to the last game and fall apart. Well, that's a consistent message from you, Carlos. Look at the Dodgers are good. Dodgers are 95-54. They're not a bad baseball team. Kershaw's healthy for the playoffs. I know you're going to tell me his playoff record sucks, but he's got something to prove. Padres are imploding at the wrong time. Yeah, I agree, Drew. You know what? Again, as I said, I think the manager's probably going to take a hit there. I really do. I don't think you can fall apart the way they have. I mean, they were rolling. They were in the division race. It feels like a month ago. Maybe it's longer now. 6 weeks. But and I kept waiting for the Giants to fall apart, and they didn't. And it was the Padres that fell apart. And I would think Tingler's going to be the guy to pay the price. Let's see what other comments we got here. You guys are doing great with the comments today. Keeps things rolling. Like to see Ian Anderson get a World Series ring with the Atlanta Braves. Ian Anderson is a local product from Shenandoah here. For you people that are not here in the local area, Shenandoah is a really big high school in the Capital District of New York. And he is also a cousin, if I'm not mistaken, of Dave Guyette. So congratulations, your cousin. He's healthy and back pitching for the Braves, and hopefully he can help them. Machado won't win the Gold Glove in the NL. Yeah, Machado's, I think Manny Machado's matured as a player. He's still a really good player, but I don't think he's as good as he was. Whether he'll win a Gold Glove or not. Gold Gloves are, the guys who deserve the Gold Gloves don't often get them. Look, there's no bigger Derek Jeter. This is a good time to mention this, right? Derek Jeter just went in the Hall of Fame. Derek Jeter, I love Derek Jeter, but he's a tad overrated defensively, and he got a bunch of Gold Gloves he probably didn't deserve because of his bat and who he played for. Too bad he chased that paper. Gardner's way too emotional. Yeah, Gardy would have a hard time. Gardy reminds me a little of Lou Piniella. I think if Gardy, and you know what, having said this, and we'll go back to this conversation just for a couple minutes. When Brett Gardner retires, I wouldn't be surprised if he went into managing because he's got that kind of mind. But is he way too emotional? Perhaps yes. But maybe that's what we need. I'm tired of watching Aaron Boone. And Boone actually has been ejected 6 or 7 times this year, which is not insignificant. But I don't think he's a fiery type. When I think of fiery guys, I don't think Aaron Boone. I don't think of Joe Girardi. Yankees could use that type of spark, but again, they're not going to, after getting a guy inexperienced, very inexperienced, probably really the last 2 times. I mean, at least Joe Girardi managed 1 year in Florida with the Marlins before he came to the Yankees. But Aaron Boone had no managerial experience when he came out of the broadcast booth. And if they were to fire him, they're not bringing in somebody without experience. It's going to be an experienced manager. Nationals fell off the face of the earth. Well, that's going to happen when you trade your two best players and trade it and let one of the best players on the face of the earth and who's having a great year quietly, and Bryce Harper, I was going to mention. Bryce Harper might be the MVP of the National League, having a great year for the Phillies. Dodgers are older and not going to have enough stamina or pitching or hitting. Look at, the Yankees had a lot of older teams that did very well in the playoffs when they were on their good run before Joe Torre was chased away. Not just Scherzer, their team. No, I know that. But again, the team goes bad. When you trade your two best players, Scherzer, and by the way, going back to Scherzer, I think I said this last week on the show, there's probably not been a bigger impact trade that I can remember at the deadline than Max Scherzer going to the Dodgers. That's before you even factor in the fact that they got Trey Turner with him. He's had that man has filthy stuff every night, and he's a bulldog on the mound, and he's the kind of guy that every team should want. And there's only a handful of guys in the league like him. DeGrom, who's hurt all the time, unfortunately. Garrett Cole, Scherzer. I might be done after thinking, when I think old school guys, they're the guys I think of. Gavin Lux is back and playing nice mix of. He does give them a nice burst of energy. I think, Drew. I think that's a really good call by you. If the Dodgers are healthy, the Dodgers will be very tough out in the playoffs. Gardner now reminds me of a cartoon character in the sense of what? That he's always bouncing his bat off something or doing something crazy. Yeah, you're probably right. So it's going to be a little interesting. We'll talk a little bit more with Mark Mancini in the 10:30 hour about what to expect these last couple of weeks. And you guys can feel free to comment some more. I wanted to talk real quick about, the Dodgers do have Bellinger out, but Bellinger, by the way, has not been helping the team. So I don't think that's even a huge loss for them at this point. Very interesting story last night, or not last night, but Tony La Russa, and if I can get to it. and Mike Wright are both suspended for hitting Ohtani with a pitch the other night. They're going to appeal, obviously. Were they throwing at him? 2 outs, nobody on a ninth in the 9-3 game. It'd be stupid if they were throwing at him. There's times to throw at guys, I think. Not throw it. This is old school, and guys will probably argue with me both ways. There's times to hit guys, and there's times not to hit guys. I'd be shocked if they were trying to hit him in a 9-3 game with 2 outs in the 9th inning. But who knows with Tony La Russa, right? I don't know. Justin Turner's the best pitcher on the team. I wish my buddy Mark were in the show today because he's the best pitcher in Perth baseball history, Perth High School, because he was a catcher and he pitched 3 innings. Never gave up a hit, a run. Perfect game. And I'm going to talk more later on about, I want to get into the Ryan Braun thing, but I don't want to get into it now. We can talk a little bit about, I want to move on actually to the college football, but we're going to talk about Ryan Braun in future shows. He retired this weekend officially, and I'll talk about Ryan Braun. And we might get into it with Mark at 10:30, but you guys can feel free to comment, and we'll go back to them. Or I won't be able to go back to them, so maybe hold those comments. I've got some interesting thoughts on Ryan Braun. Let's move on. I want to get on. Let's go through some college football. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. We'll talk a little bit about it with Mark Mancini in the 10:30 hour. Plus, we've got the college football show. Don't forget on the college football huddle, TGI Sports Talk College Football Huddle on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. We've had some great responses to this show, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. Mark Mancini did come on that show with me last week. I've had Larry Sorensen, the color analyst for Wake Forest football, has been a guest of mine to talk about some of the ACC stuff going on. We'll probably have him on this week. I'm going to try to get him on this week for a few minutes to talk a little bit. Ryan Braun from the Milwaukee Brewers retired, Carlos. As you might remember, Ryan Braun had some very strong comments about his name being drugged through the mud during the steroid scandals back in the early 90s, and he actually was proven to be a liar. And I liked Ryan Braun a lot, but we'll talk about that at a different time. I want to get to the college football scoreboard quick. Got a few topics I want to talk about here. We'll go through the top 25, and then if there's any games you guys want to chat about, certainly bring up the game, and I'll make a few comments and certainly look at yours. Alabama, I had said on my show that I thought Florida had a real chance to upset Alabama this week. They were a 15-point dog. I wish I had bet the game. They lost by 2. Maybe they showed before Alabama's going to be vulnerable, but at the same time, this might have been the best chance for a loss for Alabama this year. I will tell you that I bet 3 games yesterday. I bet Florida State, foolishly enough, and lost, but I won the other 2. BYU over Mark Mancini's Arizona State. He likes Arizona State a lot, but I bet BYU is a home dog. And Cincinnati, who got off to a rough start. We'll talk about that in a second, but they did come back and cover in that game. Oh, you were only kidding about Braun. Thanks, Carlos. Sorry. I can't read. Sometimes I can't read tone into a comment. Sorry. Georgia, Rick Sherlock, with a nice performance and a winner of a cheesesteak is our own Rick Sherlock. They win 40-13 over South Carolina. South Carolina came in 2-0. Some thought they had a puncher's chance, and they didn't punch at all. 40-13, they go down. I'm going to jump to this game right now. Penn State wins a great game last night. Teddy, you're absolutely right. Playing Auburn at home. Penn State's going to keep moving up the rankings, guys. 28-20. This was a game that went back and forth. Auburn had a chance to win. Well, at least had a chance of going in tie with a 2-point conversion with very little time left. I don't know, a minute and a half, 2 minutes left, whatever it was. And could not get it in from the 2-yard line. I will tell you one thing that sticks out in my mind. In this game, I want to talk about, there was a play in the second half, and gosh, I'm trying to remember the player. It was Jacoby. Gosh, what is his name? Oh, I can't remember now. Jacoby. He's a defensive back for Auburn. He's making a play on a Penn State guy at the 2-yard line. The running back. The running back's still churning towards the end zone. There's a guy pulling him down, and the defender lowers his shoulder at the football. Guys, this guy's still got a chance to get in the end zone. He gets flagged for targeting. Now, if he led with his head, I get it. But at that point in the game, you're trying to keep a guy out of the end zone, and you lower your shoulder to try to stop. Not a great tackling technique, I'll give you that. But how do you throw a guy out of the game at that point with this team, a very important guy in their defensive squad? Some of the targeting calls in college football are just outrageous. Outrageous. Mark also predicted Penn State to be an upset along with Notre Dame. Well, Penn State wasn't an upset, though. That's the thing. Penn State was to be upset. Right. Sorry, Rick. I did predict Auburn would beat Penn State and Notre Dame. Not a good week for Mark. I can say that for sure. Carlos going back to Alabama, Florida was not good enough for Florida. Look at Florida played as good as they can probably play. They got a really good young quarterback there that if he's healthy and stays healthy, they'll make some noise here in the remainder of the college football season. We'll talk a little bit about Oklahoma, Nebraska. I'm surprised Oklahoma doesn't beat this bad Nebraska team by about 40. They only win 23-16. I went back and forth a little bit with Carlos last night in the messenger, and we're talking about Nebraska. And, they just totally lost their identity there. And it happened when they left the Big 12. They should have stayed. They should never gone to the Pac-10. The Big 10. They don't fit well there. And they need a total culture change there. What has Carlos got here? Penn State will be a top 10. Well, be in the top 10 probably this week. I'm going to guess. Where are they now? Where are they, Carlos? Missing them. Yeah, they're 10 now. In the ESPN poll, I know I go by the coaches poll. I don't have it open right now where they were last week, but they'll be in the top 10 this week. Cincinnati, who won yesterday, after struggling early, they were behind 14-0, I think, in that game with Indiana. At Indiana, they keep staying at 8, and every teams keep flying by them. And they've got another game next week at Notre Dame. And Notre Dame's not what they were. We know that, but Cincinnati's getting no love at all, guys. No love at all. What other games in the top 25? Oregon pace Stony Brook as they should, 48-7. Iowa, a nice win over Kent State. Clemson, nail biter against Georgia Tech, a bad Georgia Tech team. I'm really beginning to doubt, and I've said this a couple times. I said they needed to win like by 40 every game. The ACC might, and Carlos, to be clear, I don't know if you've been listening to the shows when I've corrected this. I'm not an ACC lover. I like Miami, who sucks, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the team I mentioned, the league I mention all the time is the AAC that I like a lot. That's the league that Cincinnati's in. And Cincinnati, as I said, did win 38-24 yesterday against Indiana. A&M rolls with a new quarterback. Yesterday, 34-0 over New Mexico. Still can't play any defense. Ohio State comes back with a 41-20 victory over Tulsa. The big news there is that the defensive coordinator did not make the defensive calls yesterday. Combs, the defensive coordinator, did not make the calls yesterday. They needed to make a change, and that's where they did it. Morning to Kenny Gifford. Mark Baben out late last night after the Panthers lost. We'll get to that quick. Notre Dame, as we said, 27-13 over Purdue. Certainly not very impressive in my mind. A big hit for me, one of my picks as an outsider to make the playoff and make the Pac-10 relevant once they beat Oregon. UCLA out. I said, I didn't say they lost, they lose, but I said that this was going to be a game that they had to be careful, that this was a trap game for them. Fresno State has a really good offense, and they upset UCLA 40-37 last night to really take probably them out. They're certainly out of any kind of national championship conversation now. I still like what Chip Kelly's doing, but that's going to end up being a devastating loss for UCLA. And by the way, Fresno almost beat Oregon at Oregon as well. Iowa State, my other dark horse for the playoff, got back on track with a 48-3 win. They're going to have a tough time of it. If the Big 12 is any good and Oklahoma is any good, and they beat Oklahoma twice, both in a regular season and maybe in the championship game of the Big 12, maybe they'll be in the conversation depending on what happens with teams that have above them. But when you've got teams like Penn State rolling up the charts, the rankings, it's going to be very hard. Yeah, it's funny. Albany, I'm sure that was a payday for them. Well, Penn State's up to par so far. There's a few. They played. I think they played very well. They may be playing better than anybody in the top 10 right now, Kenny. As far as Albany goes, I mean, who knows? This team that they had a few years back that went deep into the playoffs. The FBS with AA playoffs. Might have gone there and given Syracuse a game because Syracuse isn't that good, but Syracuse just pasted them yesterday because this Albany team's not very good. That's for some local people. If you're around the country, you probably don't even know what the hell we're talking about. West Virginia beats Virginia Tech. Not a surprise, to be honest with you. Tech is favored on the road here, but probably they should not have been. Coastal Carolina, I said this was an interesting game. Coastal Carolina beats Buffalo. Again, a very good Buffalo team, 28-25. Ole Miss, who I said I liked a lot. I said this game, I called it 60 to whatever, 50, but Ole Miss did their part. They got to 61. Their defense is better. Gave up 21 points to a good Tulane offense. BYU, another team I liked with getting points at home last night and playing really good football. Beats Arizona State 27-17. Arkansas 45-10. Watch out for Arkansas. Playing really good football. I think they've got, I can't remember. They might have Auburn next week. North Carolina bounces back with a huge win over Virginia. I thought Virginia would give them a tussle yesterday. I like Brock Mendenhall, and I like what he's done at Virginia, but they won 59-39. I was about to say the defensive play has been better in college football recently until I saw this game. I mean, you see the blowouts all the time with teams much better than other teams, but North Carolina 59-39 in regulation. That's too many points. Miami just destroyed at home by Michigan State. Miami is no good. Michigan 63-10. Again, not a big name, but wins are important for Jim Harbaugh and this Michigan team, and getting getting confidence is certainly very important. Let's see. We had some comments here I want to go back to because there could be a couple things I was going to touch on. Carlos talks about the ACC. Great point. Memphis, and it's a really good league. Cincinnati's at the top of it, but SMU is really good. Memphis is really good. And this Memphis game, Mississippi State made a horrible play in this game, and it was very late in the game, if I'm not mistaken. Mississippi State punted, thought they downed the ball first at the 2, then I think the Mississippi State guy touched it at the 2, then it bounced back towards the 10, and another guy touched it, but then they let it sit there, and the whistle didn't blow, and a kid from Memphis picks it up and runs it all the way back for a touchdown. That was the winning touchdown. Horrible play by Mississippi State, and Mike Leach, you can't do that. There you go. SMU, Cincinnati, Memphis, all 3-0. And unfortunately, Cincinnati's going to be leaving that league for the Big 12 in a couple years. It could be as soon as next year. Who knows? Coastal Carolina quarterback is good and will be a super. I agree. That kid has played very well the last 2 years. And Coastal Carolina, while not playing a top-notch schedule, not due to their own faults, teams don't want to play teams like this that are good. They're in conference games. Well, they'll play. You're going to get Ohio State against Oregon, but they don't want to go play teams like Coastal Carolina. They want to bring in Stony Brook. Give them $1 million and get a big win. I think, whether Michigan beats Ohio State might still be up for debate. I think Ohio State's still better. I'll tell you, but it could happen. And if it doesn't happen, I do see Iowa beating Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game myself. Just some other games to note real quick so we can move on to the NFL. And we do cover college football much more extensively now on Wednesday night. So we'll do more of this, obviously. UCF lost their quarterback yesterday and lose to Louisville. And Louisville's a different team since they got beat badly by Mississippi. They've won their last two. Maryland, who I said to watch out for, is now 3-0 with Baby Tua, because I can't say his name at all, so I'll call him Baby Tua at quarterback. Their defense is really good. Talked about that game. Let's scroll through here. I talked about Clemson. How do I get all these top 25 games? If I miss a game you guys are interested in, just bring it up. Kentucky only squeaks by Chattanooga by 23. I said Kentucky should be ranked. I'm not so sure now after that debacle. Missouri rolls over Southern Miss 59-28, another game with no defense. Tennessee rolls over Tennessee Tech 56-0. Wait till they get to the SEC. Pittsburgh loses to Western Michigan 44-41. Tough loss after going to Tennessee and winning a good game last week. Syracuse, as we said, rolled over Albany. Boston College, again, a sneaky good team, 28-3 over Temple. Army beats up on UConn, as we talked about Wednesday night, Rick, they would do. I'm not sure they actually covered that game. It was a 30-something point spread. Minnesota just goes to Colorado and dismantles them. Minnesota is kind of an up-and-down team. Colorado gave Texas A&M a tussle last week, but really fall apart this week. Kansas State beats Nevada. SMU, as we talked about, with a thrilling victory. I think this game was a Hail Mary pass at the end of the game that won this game for SMU over Louisiana Tech. Rutgers 3-0. They only beat Delaware, but they beat them 45-13. Baylor, is there a worse team in Division I football than Kansas, by the way? Baylor just mantles Kansas 45-7. Got to be the worst job, and we're going to talk about this on a coming college football huddle show. There can't be a worse job in all of the college football than Kansas. Appalachian State wins 44-10 over Elon. Nobody's told me where Elon plays yet. Oregon State rolls over Idaho. USC 45-14 with after down 14-0. Slovis gets hurt, and they may have found their quarterback of the future. Jackson Dart played really well, threw for almost 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Wake Forest, as I said, beat Florida State. And the rest of these games, I don't think I'm really interested in. I want to move on to the NFL. If you guys got anything else you want to chat about, I talked about this horrible targeting call. We talked about the crazy play in Memphis. We talked about the Hail Mary in the SMU game. So, again, all in all, a kind of an interesting weekend and a fun weekend in college football. Hold on. Got a couple comments we got to catch up on. Where are we? Kenny? No. Could be. I agree, Kenny. Iowa. I like Iowa. Iowa's going to run the table. They might. It's a really good football team. Kirk Ferentz has always got a consistent team. He's never had a great vertical passing game. He seems to have it right now. Tennessee sucks and Western Michigan is usually pretty good. True. I won't dispute either one of those things. I'm not going to poo-poo it. Undefeated is undefeated. You are what your record says you are, right, Kenny? 3-0. With that said, I can't be terribly impressed with the way they've played. Now, will they get better? Hopefully. Big game. I'm really interested to see what they do with Cincinnati. I think the game's next week. Cincinnati's visiting South Bend. And we'll talk about that a lot, I think, on Wednesday night. So I think that's going to show me about Notre Dame. Cincinnati's really good, guys, on both sides of the football. And it'll be the biggest test yet for Notre Dame. I'll tell you what, I thought the Florida State game, I thought Florida State was better than what they are. If I'm down on Notre Dame, that's playing into it, the fact that they struggled with looks like, again, a very bad Florida State team, and I thought they were starting to turn the corner. So anyway, let's get to the NFL, guys, real quick before we jump into anything. Last week's results in the Pick'em League. Let's talk about the ESPN Pick'em. Rick, what happened? You only picked one game. Now you put yourself in a hole. You can still come back. Don't worry. Let's look at the standings real quick. I got that over here. After 1 week, we had some guys do really well. It was a tough week. Look at week 1. My survivor pools. I've never seen a week 1 that was really as tough to come up with a surefire winner. Did survive, but it was hard to come up with a surefire winner. But in our pool, the TGI Sports Talk pool, Mark Robertshaw led the way at 11 wins. My buddy Mark Mathewson was second with 10 wins. Robert Sorry, Robert, if I mispronounce your name. I'll just say Robert was 9-8. Mickey Delaney 8-9. So after this, it gets kind of bad. Drew did goes 8-6. Ryan Lehrman, Carlos was 7-9. Kenny was 7-10. Brad Mitchell 7-9. Mark Mancini 7-10. You notice you haven't got to my name yet. Chuck McConnell 7-9. Aaron Schultz 6-10. Jason Franton 6-10. Oh, TGI Sports Talk 6-11. He's not last. Good job. Mike Sazor. Oh wait a minute, that wasn't me. Is that me? Do I have 2 teams in here? I got to double check this. I don't think so. I don't know who this guy is at 4-13. It says TJ or Let's Talk. Oh, that's Dan Harris. Everybody, Dan Harris from Let's Talk Sports. Say a little prayer. Dan's having some health issues and didn't do any shows this week. So please, if you're of that ilk or inkling, put a good word in for Dan. And then we had Johnny Lovely, Robert Petruccione, and then Rick Sherlock, who only one of them made any pick, and it was 1 pick. So, Rick, get your picks in for this week, please. Everybody else, if you haven't got your picks in, get them in. I want to remind everybody that there's a $100 Amazon gift card at stake for the person with the most wins at the end of the season. The one caveat that I have is you need to follow the show. So most of you, I know who you are. So there's a few names in there I don't recognize. We'll make sure that they're following the show. And if you are following the show, as I said at the top, please do me a favor and do 2 things. Share the show to your page, to your timeline, the ones especially you're participating in, like you are today. And go to the TGI Sports Talk page. Go to the top of the bar, the top of there's a taskbar near the top, I think, at least the way my layout is. And if you've got others, and if you need help, reach out to me because I'll help you do this. Click on the 3 dots, and you should get some options. Click on invite friends. Guys, whether you got 50 friends on Facebook or 5,000, do me a favor, invite them. We'll grow the show. They'll like the show. You guys like the show? A lot of them will like the show. Some of them won't join. I don't care. Well, we want to grow, and it's the only way that we can continue to do is if everybody watching continues to like and share the show. And invite your friends. Now, with that said, if you got hundreds of friends or thousands of friends, don't invite them all at once because Facebook will block it and stop it and probably put Kenny in Facebook jail. Kenny out 2 or 3 weeks in a row. Good job there, by the way. Wins with the points or just wins? No. So wins with the points. That's what the wins will be. Your wins and losses are whether you covered the spread. Since we picked the games with the spread, that's the way I wanted to do it. So, if it's not what you guys like, I apologize. But that's the way we're going to go. So let's go through this week's games. Let's look at the surprises from last week first. I'm shocked that we got to do the picks too, so I got to make sure we get these in before Mark gets in. Let me look quick. Where do I have my? I guess it doesn't matter. I screwed up my whole setup here. Let me get into last week's scores. The first game that surprised the hell out of me, by the way, last week is, and how about you guys? And some of you may have very well picked the Saints over the Packers. And even if you did, if you can tell me that you saw, what was the final score of that game? Can't even find it. What was the final? I thought it was like 38-3. There they are, 38-3. If you can tell me that you thought that they were going to win 38-3, Jameis Winston would throw 5 touchdowns, and Aaron Rodgers, as much as I degrade him, would look like would have probably the worst game of his career. You could not have convinced me you predicted that. Even if you predicted a Saints victory, you could not have predicted they were going to beat them 38-3, and Jameis Winston would look like Tom Brady. Pittsburgh came through with defense, but that will not hold up. I was surprised that that's a surprise for me. Buffalo's got a big game now in Miami. They can't start 2-0. Packers sucks. Get rid of Rodgers. I don't disagree that Rodgers is a problem and that the Packers are going to have trouble. They're going to kill Detroit on Monday night. Sorry. Because Detroit's terrible. I don't care that they made a run back against San Francisco last week. But that didn't surprise, The big surprise for me was that game. The Buffalo game surprised me a bit. I think Pittsburgh's done. And Pittsburgh actually came back to win that game. The Eagles destroying the Falcons. Neither team, I think, is very good. But that's a surprise to me that they went there and manhandled them 32-6 for sure. Sorry, Rick, but hope you're still here, Rick. I haven't heard from you in a bit. Get your picks in. I like the Bengals that beat your team last week, at least with the points. I did take them, and I thought they had a chance to win the game, and they did win the game outright. And they may have a chance today, too. 49ers hold on to beat the Lions. No big surprise. Cardinals, I had said, Cardinals are my surprise team in the NFC East. Don't be surprised if they go to Tennessee and are really, really competitive in that game. And they actually won the game going away. That surprised me, 38-13. That game didn't surprise me a lot. The Chargers winning in Washington did surprise me. Fitzpatrick got hurt early in the game. Henneke had to come in and play. I think Henneke would be much better with some preparation against the Giants today. And I really thought Henneke would overcome Fitzpatrick for that job later in the season anyway. Not surprised at the Panthers beating the Jets and Darnold having a decent game there. The Texans beating the Jaguars as much as they did, that's a surprise. I thought the Texans may not win a game. What's not a surprise are the reports already coming out, I guess, that Urban Meyer is unhappy, and a lot of people are unhappy with Urban Meyer in the way that he is conducting himself in his dealings with his fellow coaches and players. I'll catch up with your guys' comments in a second. Let me just get through this stuff from last week. Chiefs and Browns, we thought it'd be a good game. No surprise there. Patriots, Dolphins. I wasn't disappointed in a loss. Again, can't lose at the Jets today. Cannot start 0-2 in the division. Wasn't disappointed because I saw a lot of good things. They lost the game because of, and this isn't to disparage the Dolphins. The Dolphins are good. The defense is really good. but turnovers and penalties killed the Patriots last week. You just can't do that. We talked about the Saints, the Giants. Look at the Giants' offensive line is atrocious. Daniel Jones is not the answer here. And I did not think they'd get beat 27-13. Rams, not surprising. Raiders surprised me a little bit that they came back and won this game. But the Ravens are really beat up. Their running game is just atrocious. So, all right, before we get to this week's outlook and some news and notes, let's see what you guys are saying here. Drew, I may be average in picking, but I still everybody wants to be ahead of me. It may not be hard, Drew. I do better in my 2 out of 3 picks than I do picking the entire card. And again, I talk about the cigar box a lot. So what I try to do is you can only bet 6 games, and I bet 3 college games and 3 pro games. And I tend to win 2 out of 3. I'm happy when I'm winning 2 out of 3 on both sides. I come out a winner. And I do fairly well, but when we get into the entire card, man, as you saw last year, it can be a disaster. So it's hard to do. And last week, hey, congratulations to Mark and Mark for being up there at 11 and 10 wins. That was a tough week. Having, again, seeing hardly anybody play in preseason games. Just a tough week to pick. So great job by them. Rick, you're right, but we'll get better. What did Rick say? Oh, Notre Dame. He's back to Notre Dame. Sorry, I missed that. What else we got here? The boys get an actual win this week after the moral victory last week. Cowboys. I'm assuming you're talking about the Cowboys, and welcome to the show. Know the deal. Haven't seen you before, so welcome to the show. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you'll share it with your friends and bring some more people to it. If you're talking about the Cowboys, I think the Cowboys are going to have a tough time today. They may get the win. I will say Dak looked really good, considering he missed most of last year with that leg injury, and he had some arm problems in camp. If you watch the most boring Hard Knocks ever, you were aware of that. That he did not play at all in preseason, that they limited his throwing in practice a lot. I think that's going to be a good game today with the Chargers and Cowboys. I think I picked the Chargers, and I will probably stick with that. Not sure what happened and picked some. I changed my team name. Oh, well, maybe that's. Tell me what it is, Rick, so I know. Maybe that's you that's in there as TGI Sports Talk somehow, because that's not me. I believe I am TGI Sports Talk, but Keith Engel. The Green Bay loss is also due to terrible coaching. LaFleur's terrible. I know Carlos, you certainly beat that drum to death. He did get his team to the NFC Championship game last year, and despite battling with his quarterback, I don't know if I can blame the coach. I blame the coach for the call, but he gets paid to make that call to kick the field goal. I wouldn't do it. I don't know that he's horrible. We'll see what happens. Green Bay Packers do not have any Super Bowl coaching on that staff. A lot of teams don't. Dak is not a winner. Dak is a winner. Dak won in college. Dak did very well in college at Mississippi State with an undermanned team for Dan Mullen. Did they win a national championship? No, but nobody wins a national championship at Mississippi State. But they had a winning football team, a very competitive football team that gave a lot of better teams in the SEC a scare when they didn't win. And Dak has done well. The faults of the Cowboys don't lie with Dak Prescott. The faults of the Cowboys lie with Jerry Jones. Hire a GM. Get guys in there who can play together. I didn't say championships. I said he won. I said you can't say. Well, if we're going to just look at the greatest winner in the history of professional football played for my team. If we're only going to judge guys on whether they win championships, well, then there's only 40 good quarterbacks ever in the history of the game of football. Dan Marino is a horrible quarterback. No. Still need to know what happened in your youth with a coach, Carlos. It's funny. All the coach he wants to fire, he doesn't want to fire Aaron Boone. The only one I want to fire. Man. All right. Let's get into my picks. You guys can comment as you see fit. I've got to get off the I won't be looking at the comments here for a second. I'll go back and forth a little bit. Washington against the Giants. I'm all over Washington this game. Game's 3.5 points. The points I will use, and Billy's not here to argue with me about the point spreads, will be the pick'em point spreads. They could have changed, but these will be the ones that we use. Washington's defense is too good. Their front four is going to be all over Daniel Jones and that horrible Giants offensive line. Don't know if Saquon Barkley's even playing today. And his health is at risk if he does. So I'm all over the Redskins. Oh, there we go. First find of the day. I'm all over the Washington football team to win this game by far more than 3.5 points. I'm taking the Bengals at the Bears. I believe in Joe Burrow and Lamarcus Chase. I think they're a great combination. I think the Bengals are going to make great strides this year. I think they could be, well, teams can't go 500 anymore, but I think they'll get to 7 or 8 wins and maybe continue to improve as the year goes on. Probably the best bet of the day is the Cleveland Browns. There's no way the Texans are going to come close to covering this game. They're not going to come close to winning the game. I can't see how they even keep the game close. I'll keep track over here, because I know that you guys will get way ahead of me. Kenny, not what I mean. Look at what happened under. Well, again, I know what you mean. That's a good point too, Drew. Trent Dilfer's a great quarterback. He's not. He led one. He wasn't a great leader either. I mean, gosh. I mean, 1 year. Trent Dilfer had a good year, and was he a great leader when he led those bad Tampa Bay teams? I don't think that's true. You know, he had a great running game and a great defense. Best defense, one of the best defenses in the history of football. You know, the Washington game was I do know the game was already played. Sorry, Drew. I had a mental fade. I forget the Thursday night games. I don't know why. Oh my God! Thanks for pointing that out to me, Rick. Or sorry, Drew. Oh my gosh! And I know I lost the game too, by the way. Oh, guys, I'm telling you, Prevagen, you got to sponsor the show. Billy Pulver's back. Billy, you're not in the pool and you're falling way behind. I've sent it to you 6 times, dude. I hate saying dude. Thanks for calling me out on that moronic Washington pick. So I've already given you guys a pick today that I know lost. I got to be honest with you. I have been just swamped Friday and Saturday, and I forgot all about that game ever being played and what the score was. Oh, gosh. Doesn't bode well for the rest of my picks. Let me get these picks out so I can go to your comments. We'll finish up with your comments before Mark Mancini comes in at 25 after the hour. The Rams at the Colts. I know that I just like home dogs, especially with teams traveling from the West Coast to the East Coast. This isn't quite the East Coast, but I believe it's in the Eastern time zone. So I'm taking the Colts with the points at home here. I know Mark Mancini will, because the same way Carlos hates coaches, Mark Mancini seems to hate Los Angeles sports teams, even though he is living in California these days. I will take the Bills going against my home team getting point strategy. I will take the Bills minus 3.5 today. I just think they need a big victory to offset last week's disappointing loss. I'll take the Patriots minus 5.5 against the Jets. I think this is an interesting matchup with the 2 rookie quarterbacks. I think the matchup of Belichick against the rookie look at Tua didn't play great last week. He looked good in spots, but look at his numbers, and they're pedestrian at best. Did he make some big plays? He did. But I like the Patriots front seven. I think they can make up for some weaknesses in that backfield, especially at the corners. And I don't know that the Jets are going to be able to run the ball efficiently or protect Zach Wilson efficiently. So I will lay this 5.5 points. And again, guys, keep putting up your comments because I will go back to each and every one of them once I get done here with my picks. San Francisco, this is a tough one. I'm going to lay the points again. I just said I don't like East, and this is the second time in 2 weeks. Maybe they stayed here. I don't know. San Francisco's coming east to play the Eagles. I don't think the Eagles are as good as what we saw last week. I think the Falcons could be that bad. So I'm going to lay the points 3.5 here against the Eagles. I'm going to take the Steelers because I don't think the Raiders are as good as what we might have seen. I mean, to me, they didn't play that great in that victory against the Ravens. I think there's still some major issues there. I think Gruden could be in trouble if they do not make the playoffs this year. I don't care how long his contract is. I think he needs a playoff appearance and maybe even a playoff win. You want a live dog this week, and I've talked for 2 years how much I love Matt Rule and I love the Carolina Panthers, and I've done this before. I think with the Saints, taking this home dog. I'm taking the Hornets today, or the Hornets. I'm taking the Panthers today because I don't know who's coaching the team. The entire coaching staff has got COVID in New Orleans. I know they don't play the game, but do not tell me that this has not impacted this team all this week in practice. And they're going to have a hangover from the big win against the Packers last week. Browns, I'm going to actually take Jacksonville plus 6.5 at home against the Browns. The Browns 27-13 victory, whatever it was last week against the Giants. I'm not going to put a lot of stock in. They were at home. You know, they have a big home field advantage. They were playing against a team with a horrible offensive line and a horrible quarterback, despite them almost winning Friday. I forgot now about I actually remember the horrible ending of that game. I don't know how I blocked it out terribly. You'd think I was a Giants fan. I will take my sleeper pick to potentially get to the Super Bowl. I did pick Tampa Bay to get back, but I think it'll be Arizona that they play in the championship game. And I will take them minus 4.5 against your Vikings this week, Rick. Sorry about that. Remember, I can't see your comments until I switch off this screen, so I am going to go through them all. I want to get through this so that I can get there. Tampa Bay, I'm going to lay the points. Until Falcon show me something, you can't give me enough points in this game. Or I can't give enough points in this game. Chargers, minus 2.5 against the Cowboys. I'm going to take the Chargers despite my comments about Dak Prescott. I like the Chargers a lot. I think Herbert's a great quarterback. I think what the Chargers are doing is really impressive. They had a nice win last week on the road in Washington. That's a tough matchup. Really good defense. So I like the Chargers here in this game. And I'm going to take the Titans with the points to bounce back to at least cover this game. I don't know that they'll win, but I think they'll cover the 5.5 in Seattle. I'm going to definitely lay the points against with Kansas City over Baltimore. Kansas City looked good against the Browns last week. I thought the Browns are really good. And with the Ravens unable to run the football, I think they're going to have trouble until they can figure out what to do there. And I do like the Packers to bounce back in a big way. I think they'll be my survivor pick this week against the Lions. So there's my picks. Let's go through some comments. Where did we leave off? We left off with Trent Dilfer being a great leader. Oh, Carlos. Yeah. I do know the Washington game's played. I know. Ricky and you guys all over me. Jets cover the points. Okay. Maybe we'll bet a cheesesteak, Billy. Let's bet a margarita. You and I, Billy, you say they cover or win the game. I won't even make you win the game. I'll say they cover. The best margarita, I think it's $18.95 at What's the place? What's the place? What's the place for the margaritas, Billy? You can name it. You know where I'm talking about. The $19, $20 margarita. That'll be our wager today. Billy did not fall off the mountain. We're happy to see that. Dilfer was with the Ravens. Need it. You could throw the ball better, Kenny. Absolutely. Back to the picks. Rams. You like the Rams to beat the Colts today? Rams, you know what? I'm still not sold on Matthew Stafford. I just, played well last week. The team played well. I just think that team, first of all, the running game is going to be hurt with Akers out. I know they picked up Sony Michel. I know they had, I can't remember the kid who played fairly well last week against the Bears, but the Bears defense didn't even show up last week. I'm still not sold on Stafford. I like the Colts running game, and I think the time zone effect is real. Billy's feeling it now. So you're back home in Albany, I take it, Billy. I'm glad you did not take Rick's advice and take a step to your right in that picture, or we would be talking to you from a hospital at minimum today. Patriots will lose on a Mac Jones fumble. I like at least that Carlos can be very specific in his predictions. Look at Mac Jones isn't going to fumble. Well, I'm not saying he's never going to fumble. Mac Jones, this is the reason I'm not disappointed in last week's game. Against a really good team and a really good defense, Mac Jones did everything he was asked to do. He didn't turn over the football. He moved the team. They had 5 14-play drives in that game. All of them ended in field goals. Not because of Mac Jones, but because of turnovers and penalties. They got the ball to goal line. First and goal to 1. Brandon Bolden goes first down, and they get a holding penalty. And that's a potential 6 points turned into 3. 7 points turns into 3. And then, and then Damian Harris fumbles the ball at the 9 with a minute left. That's why they lose the game. Mac Jones played really, really good football, and he outplayed Tua last week, just an FYI. Jets get 2 receivers back today. That's good. I do think that the Jets could give the Patriots a little bit of a run early in this game if Zach Wilson can find a way and have time, because the Patriots front 7 is really good. Whether it's good enough to cover up for the deficiencies in the backfield, I still don't know. They are missing Carl Van Noy this week. Kyle Van Noy, and their cornerbacks are not playing really well, and the front 7's got to get a pass rush and stop the run. If they stop the run and can get some pressure on Wilson, there's no way he's going to be able to exploit that secondary. The tamales or the time zones. Watson, did you slide off the mountain? Well, I'm glad you made it. He's here in time for get his cheesesteak. Let's get through the rest of these comments before Mark jumps in. BJ's Brew House is where we went for beer, but we went up the road to the I can never remember the name of the place. Billy. Oh, Billy's still in Seattle. What's the name of that place? Best margaritas in town. We'll be going back to BJ's soon, I think. I'm out of time limit this time, though. I'm going to have an expiration date. Mac Jones is the Brady clone of the young years. Exactly. I've said this for a long time. If people start looking for Brady numbers out of Mac Jones now, they're nuts. Will he become a Tom Brady later? Who knows? We don't know what these guys are going to do through their whole career. All he's being asked to do, and I said this plenty of times, Kenny, and you're right, you're dead on. All Mac Jones needs to do is be Brady of the first 3 or 4 years of his career. Brady wasn't Brady in 2001, 2003, 2004, when they won Super Bowls. Jones is more mobile than Brady. He is, and he's not. He's by no means fast. And Brady was early in Brady's career. Brady could move around the pocket. He could never run. It took him 20 years to run for 1,000 yards in his career. which was a big deal. I think it was last year or 2 years ago? I can't remember. Billy, so how many times are you going to say you're in Seattle, Billy? What time is it there? Are you just getting in? So it's not morning drinking for you this time. Mark Mancini is about a minute away. Kenny's got biscuits and gravy with eggs. No muffins. Jones is a Bledsoe. He gets smacked today. You know who's Bledsoe? I love Drew Bledsoe, by the way. Drew Bledsoe was a really, really, really good NFL quarterback. Really good. Like Matthew Stafford. That's who I compare Matthew Stafford to. The Patriots, I've said this several times on the show. Patriots were interested and kicked the tires on Matthew Stafford before the draft. And when they knew Stafford was going to be looking to get out of Detroit. And I said then that they'd already had a Matthew Stafford on that team, and his name was Drew Bledsoe, who I liked. He just, again, he wasn't a guy to get him over the top. Seattle will win today. I do like Seattle to win today, but I think that Tennessee will cover there. Unless there is a lot worse than I think. Rick likes the muffins. What does Carlos got? Bledsoe is better than Stafford. I wouldn't argue that point either, Carlos. I mean, I'm just not a huge Stafford fan. And I think you'll find out from Mark Mancini as we talk to Mark, too, that, he's not got a lot of nice things to say about Stafford either. But I think, as I said, Carlos, and I'm going to actually call Mark out on this when he gets in. I'm going to call him out on the fact that I got to find out. I'm going to put his banner up right now because he should be here in a minute. I'm going to find out. I'm going to ask him about his problem with all teams LA when he lives out there. I know he's from Pittsburgh. Better in college too. Yeah, I agree. Bledsoe was a great college quarterback at Washington State. And Stafford was certainly not a bad player at Georgia either, and played on better teams. Still going on the muffins. Oh, I love carrot muffins. Damn, love those. Stafford will make you bite your tongue. Well, I bit my tongue more than once this year already. I don't know why. While I'm waiting, let me see if I can pull up real quick. I'll give you guys the 3 games I think I'm going to bet today. So we have let me get the cigar box thing open here. And I'm doing this on the fly. I'm betting the Panthers today, +3. Little different. I lose at half a point. Wonderful, right? I think I'm betting the Bills today. And the Cardinals. Sorry, Rick. Those will be my 3 bets for the day. I may change my mind. Maybe I'll let you guys know. I'll post it on because I told you guys I do pretty good on my 2 out of 3s, but I saw Bledsoe and Cunningham play one game, the highest yardage games ever from the front row overtime loss to the Patriots. I believe you were talking about Randall Cunningham with when he was with Minnesota or Philadelphia. But Randall Cunningham was a tremendous player and a tremendous weapon. He never was on a good enough team to get over the top, almost with Minnesota when they had signed him. And they had that tough loss to Atlanta in the NFC Championship game. Share. Oh, God. I don't know how we got on. Oh, my neighbor's going to mow. Hope that guys don't pick up all that. So when he was with Minnesota, that was a tremendous offensive machine Minnesota had there for sure. Stafford's never been in a great system at Detroit. LA provides good weapons. Well, look at LA. And again, I agree with the system part, Drew, but please don't tell me he didn't have good weapons when he had one of the greatest wide receivers in football history in Calvin Johnson. So Don't like seeing keys. Watson, what am I straining for? I'm not really sure. I'm not sure why he's saying it. Billy, you must have come in. You must have just got in from the night before. Is all I can think of. All right, guys. With no further ado, we'll bring in Mr. Let me just give him a little proper introduction. Mr. Mark Mancini from Mancini Media. You can catch him on XM 203, Sirius 217. He's on KMET 1490 in California, WWDB and 860 in Philadelphia, which I think is starting this week, if I'm not mistaken. He can tell us about that. And certainly all over the airways and lots of times on this show. And now he's even appeared on the College Football Huddle. Mark Mancini, how are you?
There he is, man. The show that's sweeping the country Sundays, Wednesdays, every day.
I can't. You know what? I don't think I got time for my real job. I told my wife I might have to retire from my real job. Probably this was not any money. She doesn't like it because she asked how much I'm making, and I said,
"It's coming. It's coming."
I couldn't come up with a figure because it's zero.
You got to always walk before you run.
I hear you, brother. I love it, though. I'm having fun doing this. I have fun doing the shows with you guys. And, I get on with those Alcatraz guys, man. It takes me a couple days to get my head straight again.
I don't know if I have to take a bottle of aspirins and start drinking or what.
Boy,
I'm not really accustomed to doing.
I got to tell you guys, check out the shows that Mark produces and the shows he's on Mancini. What's the best way to get to those shows? It's on blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports. Yeah. And it's amazing. Check out some of those shows, guys. I've been going on most Thursday nights for a little bit with the guys from Left Turn at Alcatraz, and it's a roller coaster ride. I didn't know what I was walking into last week when I got there.
I think they were having a political party congratulating Gavin Newsom out here or something.
They were doing that, and they were on Colin Kaepernick, and they were all over everything last week. They covered all the bases. So it's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with those guys, and I just never know where they're going next. It's
I always say I think they're playing with a half the deck. God's got the other.
Let's. I gotta. Aspirin and drinking is never a good thing. Do one or the other. Yeah, we're not sure about Bill Pulver, one of my regulars. He hasn't been in the room lately. He's been traveling the country, and he's out in Colorado or Seattle. Sorry, we're not sure if he just came in from drinking because we're usually when he's on the East Coast, we think he started early, but he may have just finishing up. We don't know from last night. So we'll see if his comments are out of line or not. I don't know if he's been on the show in the gallery since you've been on. I don't know, Mark. So listen, thanks for being here. Lots going on in the world of sports, obviously. Let's start with a little college football.
Oh, yeah.
What's your big takeaways from yesterday?
Well, it was funny because I said on the XM show, we taped it Friday, but, it goes the whole weekend. And I basically was saying that keep your eyes on Fresno State. I mean, these are the kind of games UCLA loses. Yeah. They start out strong. Everybody's got the hoopla going. I like Chip Kelly a lot. But if you look at UCLA over the years, they get these big wins, and then all of a sudden the wheels start to, come off. You can't lose to a Fresno State. And Fresno State came in there and really took it to them last night.
Well, I think, from our conversations, both on this show and on the College Football Huddle, that I really like UCLA to possibly crash the playoff party if they could go undefeated and beat Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game, and that's all blown out. But I did say Wednesday night that this is a trap game for UCLA, and they had to be very, very careful because this team can score points in bunches. They almost beat Oregon at Oregon as well. So tough loss for UCLA.
The other one I think would have been, everybody's feeling pretty giddy about USC, but Washington State, let's face it, this is a punching bag. And, it's going to be interesting to see who USC hires, as a coach. The first thing you're going to have to get is a big name in there. a big name to know how to recruit, create a culture, player development. These are big things USC has been lacking in pretty much the last time they won a title in 2004. So we're going on 20 years since this organization. I'm looking at the USC shield here, and I'm saying to myself, maybe it's just the shield and everybody's hanging their hat on, but they got to get a big name in there to turn this program around. You can't hang your hat on tradition, and this is what we've become over the years, because I just think they got to open up the wallets to pay some big money to get some guys in there.
Yeah, I agree. I think I told you Wednesday night. If I'm USC, and I don't know that we necessarily agreed on the name, but I have a name. If I'm USC, I give Bob Stoops anything he wants to come out here and coach and run that program, because if he wants to come back, this is the place for him to do it. I think this is the perfect spot for him.
Well, you got to. Yeah, Stoops is a good one. Peterson would be a guy. Del Rio, Bieniemy, some of these guys. You need to. I look at skill and talent are two different things. And you got to get a guy that can get in there and break that thing down. And they got a lot of talent there. They just need to have somebody create player development. And the number one thing I think at USC is you need a guy to come in there and know how to recruit.
Yeah. And Carl is saying USC will continue to fail. Before I move on to Rick, I know Rick Sherlock wants me to ask a couple questions because you owe him a cheesesteak for the Carolina.
Mail this thing out or something.
He wanted to remind you, where'd that comment go? He wanted me to remind you.
Yeah.
He thought as you were thinking about the takeaways, you were trying to remember who he owed a cheesesteak to.
No, I always know who I lose to, and cheesesteaks will be flying a week from Thursday in Philadelphia.
Yeah, he also did point out early in the show that one of your upset picks was Auburn over Penn State.
Yeah, the whiteout came back to Penn State. Yep, I ate that one too. Well, XM always says Mancini's the world's worst handicapper. Whatever he says, pick the opposite.
Well, you know what? You can't do worse than me, because they had to call me out when I did my NFL picks a few minutes ago. I picked Washington to beat the Giants and cover the game that they already played.
Wow, that was a classic, Keith. Unbelievable. And, I don't know what it is that the Giants have over the Skins there, but boy, they beat them 5 straight times. And I thought, oh my gosh, this trend's going to continue if they don't do something. Guy comes off sides, and here we go. We have a second chance. I'm telling you, when you look at that, and Washington pretty much controls it now. I mean, they've got the division win. They won't see another division opponent since the last 5 weeks of the season, where they play 5 in a row. So it's going to be really interesting there. Yeah,
and I like Washington a lot, and I've said through the year that I thought Henneke would replace Fitzgerald eventually anyway, and I think they're going to be better off for him playing now, and he'll get that much better. Similar to the Mac Jones situation in New England, I think he'll benefit from playing now later in the year. And that defense, I think that's what makes them stand out over everybody else in that division. And they got some better skill position players than people think. So,
well, not only that, they're coming together. If you can keep Heineke upright, he tends to get a little injured here and there. But boy, he has spark, he has pizzazz. The team rallies around him, and keep your eyes on this one. They could. I'm telling you, I'm putting it. I think it's going to be Washington Tampa for the NFC Championship, and that game will probably take place in Tampa.
That's interesting. I got Arizona and Tampa Bay now. That's who I like. So let me jump back to college real quick.
Yeah.
I saw this last night, and it struck me. I saw a story about Brian Kelly from Notre Dame passing Nuke Rockne. I know Kenny Gifford's in the room. He's a big Notre Dame fan. And I thought to myself, is this a big story? Because Brian Kelly's a really good football coach. But can we say he's on level with Nuke Rockne or some of the other great Notre Dame coaches like Eric Parsegian and Frank Leahy and even Lou Holtz? I mean, he has not won a national championship, and things are different in Notre Dame these days than they were then. The NCAA landscape is different. I mean, but can we say he's on a level with these guys just because he's past Nuke Rockne as the all-time league winner?
Well, I don't know what they're, smoking out there or whatever. I look at Notre Dame, and there's been a lot of great quarterbacks come out of there, and Theismann, and you can go to Montana and Rick Meyer and all these other guys, but I'll tell you, I don't know what's happened in this program over the years. It kind of reminds me of USC in some ways. It's, everybody gets gears up on a Saturday and they get excited. It's Notre Dame football. It's, USC football. It's Ohio State football. And, I'm looking at these schools and, I grew up with these schools, but you know what? What have you done for me lately? If we all head out to a White Castle and White Castle's burgers change their, ingredients and everything, do we just live off a tradition or, it just, I don't know. It's just a hype train to me. I got to see more of it and I'm not buying into it. He's a good coach, but is he fits in with Parsegian and all these other guys? Boy, that's stretching it.
Yeah, I agree. And I did misspeak. He did tie. That's the second time today somebody's tied something that I said they went ahead on, but it's only a matter of time before he passes them. So I guess the question's still germane. So again, I think Eric Parsegian is a guy that I look at as of a standard bearer at Notre Dame in my mind. So I thought Kenny might have we'll go back if he's got a question here. Carlos is asking about Nebraska being a ghost. You and I have talked about this. I was surprised they gave Oklahoma as good a game as they did. I think it was more Oklahoma than Nebraska, that game being that close. But Scott Frost is in a lot of trouble. I think they need a whole culture change and need to find a way they don't have an identity, that team. Since they since they went to the Big Ten, I don't feel like they
don't have an identity. But when you rerun the tape of those two teams 50 years ago, that must have been the best college game ever. In 1971, where you had Oklahoma's defense and unbelievable on the other side of the coin. And I'll tell you, that interception, you can watch a lot of college football games. You'll never see a better interception than you did yesterday.
And you go back to that, at the time, the game of the century with Oklahoma and Nebraska, that Johnny Rodgers punt return was one of the most exciting games, I think, ever in college football. I loved it. What's Carlos got here? Crazy teams will suffer more.
I'm still trying to get the dead crow out of my mouth with ASU. I mean, I don't know what happened to them last night. I mean,
very good point. I said earlier, because I actually, as you know, I do make a small little wager here and there on a couple of games, and I did bet BYU. I thought they were a really good pick, getting 3.5 at home. And I stayed up. I didn't stay up watch that whole game. It was too late. It didn't start till 10:15 here on the East Coast, and I'm an old man. I can't stay up.
You get better with age.
I'm better if I make it. I barely make it till 11 o'clock. It's like midnight. It's like
it's amazing how these games. I mean, last couple of weeks you had USC and Stanford playing. It ended like 1 a.m. back there, and then you get this Fresno State UCLA. I don't know why they put these things on so late, and and then they're trying to compete with the East Coast viewer. I mean, it just doesn't seem to make sense.
Well, it's been, and they pushed it as, I don't know what they call it. I think they got some tagline for it. They're Saturday night, blitz, whatever, some late, fun showdown. But it's too late for us on the East. And I know we're snobs here on the East Coast. So you're on the West Coast now, but you sound like you still talk like an East Coaster. By the way, which I got to bring up. So it struck me today. As I've been watching your comments on Facebook about the Rams, the Dodgers, and we always bust Carlos, one of my great followers here, about how he had some bad experience with coaches in his youth, because he thinks every coach ought to get fired. But then I got thinking, you're kind of the Carlos of LA. You hate the LA teams.
Yeah, I catch a lot of flack out here, but you know what? It was funny. We were doing a taping of the Philly practice thing the other day, and they go, with Mancini, he just lays it out there, but I put facts behind it, and I go back and forth with the Dodger fans, and, I lay it out there to the point where you've won one title in your last 3 World Series championships playing 162 games. And then here come the excuses, the bashing of the trash cans and everything. I said, I've lived in this city for years and years and years. And to hear the excuses, I'd have to go back to Magic Johnson and Byron Scott when they couldn't play against the Detroit Pistons. And you thought you had a better team to beat the Pistons, and they rolled you. So no excuses, make adjustments. That was John Wooden's philosophy. God rest his soul. But yeah, I look at the teams out here, and it's almost like a Tinseltown tradition. They haven't won anything in quite a while. The Kings are a cult following. I know the Lakers, and I respect the Lakers because the Lakers will put, what it takes to bring in a guy to get to the championship and get it done. I've never been a Ram fan. They haven't won nothing in this town. They had to go win in St. Louis. And when you look at the Dodgers, Andrew Friedman kind of reminds you of the guy that was given an inheritance, and basically, he's using somebody else's money. Go out there and work, get your own money, turn around the Milwaukees, the Cincinnatis, and all these other ones. And people say, well, Mancini, he did it in Tampa. What did he win in Tampa? He took them to the World Series. They got beat by Philly, and that was it.
Do you have somebody start your car for you in the morning out there in LA?
I'm revved up. A couple cups of U-Band, man. I'm jacked.
Carlos does say he hates LA too, and that might have been what prompted me thinking that because he was ripping on the Dodgers earlier. One thing, and before we leave college football, I'll comment on Billy's comment here. He thinks Bama was playing with the Gators yesterday. I don't. I told you Wednesday night I thought Florida would upset them, and they had every chance yesterday. And maybe it's the only chance anybody gets all year, but I think maybe we saw some flaws in that Bama team. We know now they weren't playing a very good team in Miami the first week. That team is no good. And this is their first real test on the road, and they're lucky to get out of there with a victory. I do not think they were playing with that team.
Well, I'm going to side with Bill here on that because I think there's always a game Bama plays every year where a lot of people think, they're just going back and forth, making it close for TV and, maybe keeping the opposing team interested in stuff. But I'll tell you, when the dust clears this year, Bama's going to win another championship. I can't see anybody beating them. I know it's all bunched up. It's too early. We haven't even got out of September.
Yeah.
But Nick Saban is just far and above ahead of the league. And the only guy that I can think that can keep up with him is Dabo Sweeney. He just doesn't have the horses this year to get him. But Nick Saban, I mean, when you look at the culture they've built in Alabama, this is a religion down there, man. They lose quarterbacks and they churn out the quarterbacks year in and year out. They probably have an influx of quarterbacks for the next 3-5 years down there. You will not see paper bags being worn in Tuscaloosa anytime soon.
Good point. Let's move on before we go to the NFL and our locks and don't be surprised if. Let's talk about the MLB. Just give me an idea. We got 12 games left, 2 weeks from today. The season will be over. What are we going to look for here? I know there's a lot of going on in the AL wild card race and that NL West and the wild card race. What are you looking for to happen these last 2 weeks?
I'll tell you, first of all, the circus that happened in St. Louis yesterday, I don't know if you guys heard it with Machado yelling at Fernando Tatis Jr.
Yeah, talked about
that circus in St. Louis kind of reminded me years ago when Whitey Herzog yanked on Gary Templeton. That was the last we saw of Gary Templeton. He was shipped to San Diego for Ozzie Smith. Yeah. So when I look at this situation, everybody's going, well, what happened to the Padres, Mancini? You had the Padres to do something, their influx of fighting and all this and everything. When you're with somebody 6 months of the year, maybe 7-8 months of the year, when you count spring training and all this, you're going to have these things. The only thing that I didn't like out of that situation is that thing should have been held behind closed doors.
Yeah.
You don't want to bring it out to the forefront because then what ends up happening, whether Manny Machado was right, which I think he was.
I do too.
You can't embarrass a young talent like that and Fernando Tatis Jr. And there's two ways to come about that. Fernando can wake up in St. Louis today and say, hey, you know what? I was wrong. Sorry, Manny. I'm glad you called me out. Or the other way is, screw you, Manny. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm bigger than you on this team. And that's the thing. I will tell you this. Chase Tingler's gone at the end of the year, regardless.
Yeah,
regardless if this team gets in the playoffs or not. He's going to have to take this team to the World Series. But he's gone, and he's lost complete control of the team. And real fast here, when you look at this, they have been beset by a schedule that's just unbelievable. If it wasn't the Dodgers, they had to go to the Giants. Then they go to St. Louis. They come back. They got with the Giants. They got the Braves. I mean, it's just bing, bing, bing. It's just a nonstop. But it's frustration there. And hopefully they can come together, circle the wagons, and get this thing done. I had San Diego and Toronto in the beginning of the year. You know me, Keith. I'm not going to waver away from that. I'm going to still stick with San Diego, Toronto.
The San Diego's certainly going in the wrong direction. Toronto's on a different trajectory. They've struggled a little bit more recently, but they're still like half a game ahead of the Yankees, and I think they're going to hold on to. As a Yankee fan, even if they somehow get in there, I cannot see them win a one-game playoff in Boston or in Toronto myself. And the A's could still sneak in there in the AL too. So,
well, when you look at the Yankees, all I do is look at that road trip they went through: Atlanta, Oakland, and Anaheim. They were on a complete roll even before they got to Atlanta. They won the first 2 games in Oakland, and that was the beginning of the end of them. And I don't think they've recovered from that West Coast trip. They split with Oakland, and then they had problems in Anaheim.
Yeah. The Cardinals, we can't rule out either. They won 7 to take control of that. They've got a 2-game lead on that with that second wild card right now in the NL too. So San Diego, the Reds both got their work cut out for them here this last week, 2 weeks. Sorry.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I talked to Tarek the other day, the first base coach of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I was saying, must feel good. You control at least 2 of these 4 teams down the stretch. They got 6 with the Reds, and they got 4 with the Phillies. So they can probably dictate on those 2. They can't, do anything with the Cardinals and Padres. But I really think, when you look at this thing, I think it's going to be the Padres kind of finding a way here down the stretch to take out St. Louis. But I will tell you this, if you're an Atlanta Braves fan, man, if they're going to get a schedule, you don't want to send a team to the West Coast with the last 30 games twice in the same month, especially in September. And the Braves, they're trying to find themselves.
Gotcha. Yeah, it'll be fun. This is what baseball's about. I wasn't a big fan of these wild cards when they first came in because, again, I'm too old school. But you know what? They create more drama here at the end of the season when, otherwise we wouldn't have had that. We'd really have one race, I think, maybe 2 races. Hold on. Yeah, we'd have we'd have 2 races. The NL East, which is like a battle of attrition out there. Right. Who's going to just survive, and then the National League West. That's all you would have going on without the wild card. So let's jump to the NFL before we run out of time here, because we've got to do our what's going to be our weekly shtick. So
I love it.
We've got 2 dead solid locks and 2 don't be surprised ifs. So let's start with your locks, and I'll do my locks after that.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I like the Steelers over the Raiders. A short week. I think the Raiders, coming back east, they're going to have problems. The Steelers, I think they're playing good football. What they did in Buffalo was simply amazing. I like the Steelers. That's my lock right out of the bat.
Okay. And what's your second lock?
Second one, I like the more or less and this is an interesting one to say the least, because I like the Eagles over the 49ers. I really do. I think the Eagles, the 49ers, if you looked at that game against Detroit, I think they very much gave Detroit a chance to come back, and Goff started to tear up that defense a little. I think Philly, what they did to Atlanta is simply unbelievable. They can carry it in home opener in Philly today. I'm not being biased, but I think Philly's going to win that game.
That's your dead solid lock. Hey, that's a bold prediction. So I think dead solid locks are pretty much they're standard. I see Green Bay coming back big time and just laying it to the Lions at home Monday night. It's going to be. I wouldn't want to be a Lions fan on Monday night because the Green Bay Packers are going to be angry.
Let me ask you something, Keith, before you get into the second.
Yeah.
Are these 2 yawners this week on football? You got a Monday night that could be probably one of the worst ones to sit there and watch. And then you got Thursday night with Carolina and Houston. The NFL must be cringing.
Well, the Thursday night schedule can be a disaster anyway, especially until the major networks get involved. When it's on the NFL network only, the games stink. When Amazon pays $1 billion and gets part of this NFL contract, you're going to see really good games on Thursday night. I'll bet you anything.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. And my second lock is going to be, Tyrod Taylor in Houston. You won your 1 game for the year. You're going down pretty big in Cleveland today, I think, as well. So those are my 2 dead. Cannot lose picks. Both teams will cover and win big. What should we not be surprised if it happens today?
Well, the Cowboys coming into SoFi, first of all, they're going to feel like they're in Dallas. Second of all, the Chargers had a big win in Washington. Cowboys came up short their first week at Tampa. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the Cowboys put it together and go into SoFi and turn that place into the old Texas Stadium.
Good pick. Next.
Second one is I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the Colts beat the Rams. This is another trap game where, the Colts have opened up with Seattle, came up short, and now you get the Rams. So preparing for an NFC team coming in their backyard, I will not be a bit surprised if the Colts pull one against the Rams.
I'm expecting to see the Rams in one of either dead solid lock against or surprised if they lose. Don't be surprised if they lose for you almost every week this year. Mine are, with all the COVID problems with the Saints coaching staff. I know that coaches don't play, but you can't tell me that their week has not been disrupted something terribly this week. Plus, they got the hangover effect of coming down after hammering the Packers last week. Don't be surprised if Charlotte beats the Saints outright as a home underdog.
Yeah, wow, that's a good one.
I like that one.
That's a very good one.
And then my second will be, don't be surprised if Urban Meyer loses again today, that he has another outburst and we get another round of players and coaches telling us what a horrible person he is and how he belongs back in the college game. And his name starts circulating even stronger for that USC job.
Yeah, he did a good job denying that he isn't interested in it. But they haven't brought Fort Knox from Southern California to Jacksonville yet. I'm
shocked. The NFL is we don't have any patience for anything, but it's shocking how they're ready to chase Urban Meyer out of town. The players, the coaches, the fans, everybody after 1 week in the NFL.
I know. What did you do to piss the people off of Jacksonville?
I know. Good grief, jeepers, creepers. It's crazy. Let me see. We got a couple of comments here we'll catch before we sign off for the morning here, so I can run off and watch the Patriot game at 1:00 with my boys. Yeah. Drew's talking about really unfortunate scheduling for the Raiders. I don't disagree. Sunday night having to travel across the country, not quite fair. How about the 49ers too, having to come east 2 weeks in a row though too? You talk about scheduling. I don't know if the 49ers stayed out here, but they got to come east 2 weeks in a row. I mean, that doesn't.
Yeah, the thing with that is, see, I don't know how the COVID protocols work here, but if I was the 49ers, knowing that I had to go to Detroit and Philly the first 2 weeks, I would have went from Detroit and just started practicing the whole week in Philly. Now, I don't know if they had to fly back home and fly back out, but that's the first thing I would be doing is, hey, guys, we're taking a 2-week road trip, and we're going to be on the road for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious what they did. I'll have to check into that before I make a wager today. And the Falcons, I don't think they're a fair comparison to the Niners either, but I'm going to, we'll see how that plays out. A Philly sports guy on Northeast Streaming Sports Network, I know he'll be excited by your pick. And then the Falcons, I heard they closed the stadium till next year.
Well, and you got to get Carol Friedman on your show. The Dirty Bird, the mascot down there, the Falcons bird lady. She's a great lady, man.
By the way,
she has more spunk than the Falcons.
How ironic is it? As we got only a minute or so left here, but how ironic is it that the Chick-fil-A stadium there is sponsored, and the major tenant of the stadium, they aren't even open when the team is playing at home because Chick-fil-A doesn't open on Sundays because of they're Baptist. I don't know what the religion. I guess they're Baptists down there.
What you got to put on the going to, up to that Chick-fil-A there, and you should have a sign. It's a real head scratcher.
Absolutely right. Listen, Mark, is your show starting this week? Was I right?
No, it starts a week from Thursday.
Week from Thursday. Okay.
WWDB AM 860 AM out of Philadelphia. It should be fun. Randy Lurch, Warren Brewster, the first two guests, and
awesome.
Mary Ann Costello and Sal Tartaglia. And I've known them for a long, long time, like you. And they go, we never know what Mancini's going to say, so it should be interesting. I told him, just give me a Pat's cheesesteak. I'll enjoy it, and I'll start passing them out in Philly and down south.
Oh, you shouldn't have said cheesesteak because you got to send one to Rick Sherlock.
Yeah, I know. I got. Rick's gonna be holding that over my head. I got to take care of him.
Rick, send me your address. I'll get Mark to send you a cheesesteak coupon for. You can have to take a ride to Philly to get it. That's all. So. Mark, thanks for coming in today.
I love you, brother. I love this show. This is this network that's sweeping the country each and every week. I will definitely be there Wednesday with you, brother.
Awesome. We'll talk about it during the week. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, brother.
Have a great Sunday. Bye-bye.
You too.
Guys, that's it for us today. Great show, great comments. Love your guys' participation. Makes the show so much more fun for me, this show especially. And you guys have a great Sunday football day. I'm on my way to the recovery room, which, by the way, is costing themselves lots of money in some of the changes they've made.